Most people fail, not because they lack talent, not because they lack opportunity, but because they lack consistency. You say you want success, you say you want freedom, then prove it. Not once, not for a week, not for a month, every single day until everything you want has no choice but to bow down to your persistence. This is not motivation, this is war. And today, you learn how to win. Bria, they say life bends to the will of the consistent, not the talented, not the lucky, not the ones born into privilege, but the ones who show up when the world tells them to quit. Consistency is the quiet assassin of mediocrity. It doesn't shout, it doesn't brag, it works in silence, striking day after day until mountains move and dreams take form. And yet most people will never taste its power because most people confuse motivation with discipline. They wait for the perfect day, the perfect mood, the perfect moment, not knowing that consistency doesn't ask for perfection. It demands presence. You want success? You want greatness? Stop asking life to be easy and start asking yourself to be relentless. Because here's the truth, most people don't want to hear talent without consistency rots. Ambition without consistency starves. Every genius who ever walked this earth, Edison, Carnegie, Disney, they all bled consistency. Edison didn't wake up one day and stumble into the light bulb. He didn't find it in a dream. He found it because he was willing to fail 1,000 times and show up 1,000 more. That's consistency, standing at the door of success long enough that it has no choice but to open. But here's where it gets brutal. Consistency will demand war from you. Not with the world, but with yourself. With your excuses, with your laziness, with your need for comfort. It will pull you into dark mornings when no one is cheering, into long nights when the world is asleep and you're still grinding. And that's where the separation happens between those who live average and those who build empires. Understand this, greatness isn't built in the spotlight, it's built in the shadows. When nobody's watching, when nobody claps, when nobody even knows your name, and you keep going anyway. Because consistency isn't about what you do when it's easy. It's about what you do when it's hell. When you feel like breaking, when every part of you screams to stop and you keep moving forward. That's when you cross from desire to destiny. Think about the legends. Think about Henry Ford. People laughed at him. They mocked his vision of building an automobile for the masses. But what did he do? He stayed consistent. He kept hammering the same idea into reality until it bent to his will. That's what separates the dreamers from the doers. The dreamers wait for lightning. The doers build the storm. And here's the hard truth. You're not tired. You're uncommitted. You're not broken. You're unfocused. Stop lying to yourself. Success doesn't belong to the smartest. It doesn't belong to the most gifted. Belongs to the most consistent. The person who refuses to quit, refuses to skip, refuses to surrender to the weakness of the moment. Every time you force yourself to show up, you're making a deposit in the bank of greatness. And one day, those deposits will compound into something extraordinary. So ask yourself, can you force yourself to stay consistent when the mood dies? Can you keep building when nobody notices? Can you stay at war when the battle feels endless? Because life will test you. It will throw storms, distractions, failures, all to see if you're serious. And most people will fold. They'll retreat. They'll say, maybe this isn't for me. But you don't have that luxury. If you want the life you've been dreaming of, you have to become obsessed with consistency. Obsession is the gatekeeper to greatness. Every day you don't show up, you widen the gap between who you are and who you could have been. Every day you procrastinate, you bury your potential deeper into the ground. But every day you show up, even when it hurts, Even when it feels useless, you're chiseling the stone of destiny. Slow, silent, relentless. Until one day the world calls it overnight success, but you'll know it was built in the darkness with nothing but consistency and faith. Listen to me. Stop waiting for motivation. Motivation is seasonal. It comes and goes like the wind. Discipline is eternal. And consistency is the steel frame that holds everything together. You don't need another podcast, another pep talk, another shot of adrenaline. You need to decide right now that no matter what, you will show up. Whether it rains, whether it storms, whether the world burns, you will stay the course. That's the price. That's the cost. And when you pay it, everything falls into place, because consistency isn't glamorous. It's not exciting. It doesn't make headlines. It's boring. It's repetitive. It's doing the same damn thing every single day until the rest of the world gets tired of watching you. But inside that boredom lives the code to greatness. That's why so few crack it. They're addicted to excitement, to dopamine, to shortcuts. They want fireworks, not foundations, and that's why they fail. You cannot build a skyscraper on weak soil. You cannot build an empire on shaky habits. Consistency is the cement that locks your future into reality. Voor thirst for zucks, then denim sir, but here's the paradox. You won't see the results at first, and that's why most people quit. They plant the seed, water it for a week, and then complain there's no tree. They don't understand that success has its own rhythm, its own season. You don't control the harvest, control the planting. And if you stop planting because the ground looks empty, you've killed your future before it even had a chance to breathe. Do you think Thomas Edison saw light the first day he tried? Do you think Walt Disney built his empire on his first sketch? Do you think Andrew Carnegie filled his pockets on his first investment? No. They endured failure, humiliation, rejection because they understood this truth. The universe rewards persistence. The door will not open the first time you knock, sometimes not the 10th, sometimes not the 100th. But if you keep knocking long enough, the hinges will break, and that's where consistency becomes your weapon. Because while others quit, you persist. While others chase something new, you double down. While others drown in self-doubt, you keep moving forward with quiet conviction. That is the trait of giants. That is what separates immortals from the forgotten. Ask yourself right now, what have you abandoned because it didn't pay off fast enough? A dream? A business? A vision that kept you awake at night? How many times have you let impatience rob you of your destiny? Because that's what quitting is, a robbery. You are stealing from the future version of yourself who was counting on you to stay in the fight. You want success to respect you, then earn it. Earn it by showing up on the days you feel like hell. Earn it by working when others are sleeping. Earn it by refusing to negotiate with your excuses. Because life doesn't care how you feel. It cares what you do. The scoreboard only counts the points, not the pain. But understand this. Consistency doesn't just build skills. It builds identity. Every time you follow through on your word, you're telling your mind, this is who I am. I am the kind of person who finishes what they start, and that identity becomes unshakable. That's when discipline stops being a struggle and starts being your nature. You don't fight to stay consistent, you breathe consistency. It becomes who you are. And when that happens, when consistency stops being a burden and starts being your blood, that's when the world begins to bend in your favor. Opportunities will show up, connections will appear, doors will open, not because luck found you, but because you built a reputation with the universe that you can be trusted with success. Success doesn't chase the weak, it doesn't chase the flaky, it doesn't chase the ones who quit when it hurts. It comes to those who prove they can hold the weight of greatness every single day without dropping it. Look around you. Look at the people you admire, the athletes, the CEOs, the creators, the empire builders. Do you think they were born different? Do you think they had some magic gene? No, they had habits. Habits that they repeated so many times that failure ran out of breath trying to stop them. That's the game. You outlast failure. You outlast doubt. You outlast fear. You keep hitting the stone until it cracks. There's an old saying, you cannot beat the man who never quits. That's the essence of consistency. The world can outsmart you. The world can outspend you. The world can outnumber you. But if you refuse to go away, if you refuse to stop swinging eventually, the world will have no choice but to surrender. And maybe you're thinking right now, I've tried before. I've stayed consistent and nothing happened. Let me ask you this. Did you stay consistent long enough? Or did you stop right before the breakthrough? Because that's where most people die. One step from gold, one strike from oil, one day from victory. They quit because the ground looked empty, not realizing the treasure was inches away. Don't let that be you. Don't dig Joder's jolt feet and walk away when the diamond is at e-bat. Stay in the fight. Stay consistent. Stay relentless, because the day you make consistency your religion, everything begins to fall into place. The world is full of talented quitters, men and women with brilliance in their veins, but weakness in their hearts. They start strong, they burn bright for a moment, and then darkness. Because talent without consistency is like a match in a storm. It flickers, it shines, and then it's gone. But the consistent are like the sun. You can't ignore them. You can't compete with them. Because they rise every single day, no matter the weather, no matter the storm, no matter who believes in them. Do you want to be the match or the sun? That's the question. That's the choice. And don't fool yourself. Every single day, you answer it with your actions. You answer it when you snooze the alarm. You answer it when you skip the workout. You answer it when you say, I'll do it tomorrow. There is no neutral. You are either building consistency or destroying it. And here's the truth. No one wants to say out loud, the beginning will feel unfair. You'll put in hours and see nothing. You'll pour your soul into the work and hear silence. No applause, no reward, just the echo of your own effort. And if you can't survive that, if you can't walk through that desert, you will never see the promised land. Because that desert is where greatness is tested. That desert is where weak men die and strong men are born. Look at every champion you admire. Michael Jordan didn't become a legend on game night. He became a legend on practice mornings when no cameras were rolling. Steve Jobs didn't build Apple in a press conference. He built it in quiet rooms, making 1,000 small decisions that no one saw. They understood something most people never will. Success is the result of thousands of invisible days stacked on top of each other. And that's why most people lose. They can survive the pain of one day. They can handle the grind of a week, maybe even a month. But they break when the timeline stretches into years. They can't stay faithful long enough for the miracle to show up. They keep pulling the seed out of the soil to check if it's growing, and then they wonder why it never takes root. You've got to bury the seed and trust the process. You've got to keep watering when nothing is sprouting. You've got to believe in the invisible before the visible appears. Because here's the secret, they're not clapping for you now because you haven't given them a reason yet. And that's fine. Stop chasing validation. Stop chasing applause. Success isn't a stage. It's a graveyard of excuses. You bury every excuse, every weakness, every moment of doubt, and you keep going. That's consistency. And let me tell you something brutal. Nobody cares if you quit. Nobody. The world moves on. Your excuses die with you. The only person who loses when you quit is you. Your family doesn't get the life you promised. Your dreams don't get the chance to breathe. You carry your potential to the grave like a thief stealing from himself. That's what quitting does. It makes you the murderer of your own destiny. So you've got two choices: live with the pain of discipline now, or live with the pain of regret forever. And trust me, regret weighs more. Regret will crush you in the quiet moments when you realize you could have been more. You could have done more, but you let weakness win. Discipline is heavy, but it makes you stronger. Regret is heavy, and it breaks you in half. Force yourself to be consistent. Force yourself to rise when your body wants to stay down. Force yourself to show up when your feelings say stay home, because every time you conquer yourself, you become unstoppable. The enemy isn't the competition. The enemy isn't the market. The enemy isn't the economy. The enemy is the voice inside you whispering, take it easy, do it later. You've done enough. Silence that voice with action. Kill that voice with consistency. And remember this, consistency isn't about speed, it's about direction. You don't have to run a marathon today. You just have to take the next step, and then the next, and then the next. Stack enough steps, and one day you'll look back and realize you built an empire brick by brick. That's how greatness is made, not in leaps, but in layers. The gym you skip today becomes the body you never build. The book you didn't read becomes the knowledge you never gain. The call you didn't make becomes the opportunity you never see. And it all starts with one decision: to be consistent or to be careless. Which one will you choose? Because the world doesn't give what you want, it gives what you're willing to work for. Every single day, consistency will cost you friends. It will cost you weekends. It will cost you sleep. It will cost you comfort, but it will pay you in freedom. It will pay you in power. It will pay you in peace, the kind of peace that only comes when you know you gave everything. The problem is most people aren't willing to pay the price. They want the reward without the sacrifice. They want the victory without the fight, but life doesn't work like that. Life charges interest on every dream. And consistency is the currency you pay it with. You cannot negotiate with success. You cannot bargain with greatness. You cannot say, I'll show up when I feel like it. No, it's all in or nothing. Every day the clock resets. Yesterday's effort doesn't buy today's progress. You wake up at zero every single morning, and you either show up or you start falling behind. Let me ask you something. How many dreams have died because someone didn't feel like showing up? How many books never got written? How many businesses never got built? How many songs were never heard because someone let a mood decide their destiny? That's the difference between amateurs and professionals. Amateurs work when it's fun. Professionals work when it's hard. And here's the truth. Consistency doesn't feel like winning at first. It feels like sacrifice. It feels like pain. It feels like you're giving more than you're getting. But that's the trick. The universe hides the treasure behind a wall of suffering to see who really wants it. And most people turn back before they even make a dent in that wall. They quit right before the breakthrough because they can't see it yet. But breakthroughs aren't supposed to be seen. They're supposed to be earned. Think about Abraham Lincoln. Before he became president, he faced defeat after defeat. Business failure, political loss, public humiliation. Most men would have quit. Most men would have said, this isn't for me. But not Lincoln. He stayed consistent. He kept fighting, and history remembers his name because of it. Not because of the easy days, but because he survived the hard ones. I need you to hear this. The dream you're chasing is hiding behind a wall of monotony. The same tasks, the same grind, the same routine, and you'll be tempted to escape it. You'll be tempted to chase something new because new feels exciting, but excitement is a liar. It seduces you with speed and leaves you with nothing. Consistency is slow, yes. It's repetitive, yes. But it builds something permanent. And permanence beats excitement every single time, so stop asking for easy. Stop asking for quick. Stop asking for luck. Start asking for strength. Start asking for endurance. Start asking for the courage to keep going when every voice around you says stop. That's the prayer of the champion. Give me one more day of fight. Give me one more ounce of discipline. Give me one more chance to prove I can outlast this storm. And storms will come. Make no mistake about it. There will be days when you feel invisible. There will be weeks when nothing works. There will be months when the only progress you see is that you haven't quit yet. And that is enough. Do you hear me? That is enough, because consistency compounds. Every rep you push in the dark adds weight to your future victory. Every line you write in silence becomes a chapter in your legacy. Every call you make, every step you take, every hour you grind when no one is watching, it all stacks. And one day it explodes. That's why consistency feels unfair, because it hides its reward for so long. But when it shows big. It doesn't trickle in. It floods. It drowns you in opportunity. It overwhelms you with abundance. And people will call you lucky. They'll say you blew up overnight. They'll never see the 1,000 nights you stayed awake building the life they're clapping for now. Let them talk. Let them guess. You'll know the truth. And here's the truth. The only magic in this world is compound effort. Small actions repeated daily without apology, without excuse. That's the formula. That's the law. And the law never fails. You can doubt me. You can argue with me, but you cannot argue with results. And results bow to consistency like gravity bows to the earth. It's universal. So force yourself. Force yourself when it's dark. Force yourself when it's lonely. Force yourself when it hurts. Because the pain of consistency is temporary, but the reward is eternal. And when you stand at the top of the mountain one day, when you look back at the valley of excuses you buried, you will know it was worth it. Every tear, every sacrifice, every lonely night, worth it 1,000 times over. People talk about motivation like it's the holy grail, but motivation is a liar. Motivation is a spark. It burns bright and fast, and then it dies. Consistency is the fire that never goes out. It doesn't roar. It doesn't explode. It burns steady, day after day, season after season, until everything in its path is consumed. That's what you need, not sparks, not height, fire. And fire only stays alive when you feed it. Do you know what feeds the fire? Action, not thoughts, not feelings, not Instagram quotes. Action. Every single day, whether you feel like it or not. You think the greats were motivated every day? You think Kobe Bryant woke up excited every morning? No, he woke up disciplined. He woke up committed. He woke up ready to do the work no matter what mood was waiting for him. That's why he became a legend. Consistency makes you dangerous. Do you understand that? Dangerous. Because most people quit. Most people break. Most people talk big but move small. And when you keep moving when they stop, you separate yourself. You create distance. You create leverage. You create inevitability. Because consistency doesn't just make you better. It makes you unstoppable, but don't get it twisted. This isn't about perfection. You will miss days. You will fail. You will stumble. And that's fine. The power of consistency isn't in never falling. It's in never staying down. It's in standing back up faster than anyone else. It's in refusing to let one bad day turn into a bad week. That's where most people get trapped. They fail once and decide it's over. No, it's not over until you quit. And if you refuse to quit, you can never lose. Look at Edison. 10,000 failures, 10,000 wrong turns, 10,000 reasons to give up, and he didn't. Why? Because he was consistent, because he understood that every failure was a payment towards success. That's what I need you to understand. Every rep, every call, every late night, every early morning, it all counts. It's all a brick in the wall of your future. And the only way the wall stands is if you keep laying bricks. Stop fantasizing about the finish line and start falling in love with the process. The process is the prize. The grind is the glory. The work is the reward. If you can't love the work, you'll never touch the dream. Because the dream isn't some shiny moment, it's the collection of thousands of dull, ordinary moments that you turn extraordinary by showing up for them. Consistency doesn't just build skills, it builds belief. Every time you show up, even when you don't feel like it, you're proving to yourself that you can be trusted. And that trust is everything. Because the day will come when you feel empty, when the world feels heavy, when doubt is screaming in your head, and on that day your habits will save you. Not motivation, not hype, habits, consistency. That's what keeps you alive when the fire burns low. And here's the greatest gift of consistency: momentum. Momentum is magic. It makes the hard things easier. It makes the impossible look inevitable. But momentum doesn't show up on day one. It doesn't show up on week one. It shows up after the 1,000th step you didn't want to take. And when it does, when that flywheel starts spinning, nothing can stop you. Nothing. That's why I'm telling you, don't break the chain. Every day you show up, you add another link. Miss one day, fine, but don't miss two. Never miss two. Because 2 turns into 10, and 10 turns into never. Stay in the fight. Protect the chain. Guard it with your life. Because that chain is your future. And I know what you're thinking. This is hard. You're damn right. It's hard. It's supposed to be hard. If it were easy, everyone would do it, and success wouldn't mean anything. The struggle is what gives success its value. The pain is what gives victory its taste. The resistance is what makes you rise. Stop running from hard. Start chasing it, because hard is where the growth lives. You remember this: the life you want is on the other side of boring repetition. The freedom you want is on the other side of discipline. The greatness you want is on the other side of monotony, and the only way through is to force yourself. Force yourself when you're tired. Force yourself when you're uninspired. Force yourself when you've lost every reason to keep going, except one: you said you would. Because that's what this is really about: your word, your commitment. The promise you made to yourself when no one was listening. Keep it, honor it, live it. Because if you can't keep a promise to yourself, you'll never keep one to the world. One day, years from now, you're going to wake up and look back on this season of your life, and you will either feel pride or regret. Pride because you stayed the course, or regret because you let weakness win. That choice is being made right now, not in some future moment, but in this one. Every decision you make is casting a vote for the person you're becoming. You're either building the man or woman who owns the dream, or you're building the one who buries it. Do you know what the difference is between a dreamer and a doer? A dreamer waits for the mood. A doer shows up no matter what. A dreamer needs to feel inspired. A doer creates inspiration through action. That's why so many dreams die in silence, because they belong to people waiting for a feeling that never comes. Stop waiting, stop hoping, stop praying for motivation like it's some miracle drug. Start moving. Move first, feel later. Action births emotion, not the other way around. And if you think this is about working harder than everyone else, you're wrong. This isn't about working harder. This is about working longer, outlasting, enduring, surviving the seasons that make other people quit. That's where greatness lives, past the quitting point, past the breaking point, past the point where your mind screams, "Enough," and you whisper back, "Not yet." Think about the people who changed the world. They weren't the smartest, they weren't the strongest. They weren't even the most creative. They were the ones who refused to stop. Edison, Ford, Jobs, Musk. Do you think they didn't face doubt? Do you think they didn't want to quit? Of course they did. But they showed up, and they kept showing up. And while the rest of the world was chasing trends and chasing shortcuts, they were stacking bricks in silence until the wall was too big to ignore. Yeah, the truth is simple. Consistency beats intensity. Intensity is a sprint. Consistency is a marathon. Intensity is sexy. It makes headlines. It sells books, but it burns out. Consistency? Consistency never burns out because it's not about speed. It's about rhythm, and rhythm never stops. You don't need to run faster than anyone else. You just need to keep running when they stop. But let me warn you, consistency will feel like loneliness. It will feel like isolation because you will outgrow people. You will leave them behind. The ones who said you've changed, the ones who said take it easy, the ones who laughed when you started and disappeared when you kept going. That's part of the process. Don't fight it. Don't fear it. Embrace it, because the higher you climb, the smaller the crowd gets. And here's the truth. They won't understand you. They can't, because you're not living for comfort anymore. You're living for purpose. You're living for destiny. And destiny demands distance from the mediocre. Let them stay in the circle of average you. You're building something eternal, something that will outlive you, something that will make history whisper your name. Do you want to know the real enemy of consistency? It's not failure, it's success. Failure strengthens you because it forces you to fight. But success seduces you into comfort. It makes you soft. It whispers, you've made it. And that's when most people stop. That's when they lose the edge that got them there. Never lose the edge. Never lose the hunger. Never let yesterday's victory rob you of tomorrow's greatness. Stay empty. Stay driven, stay obsessed, because the day you stop being consistent is the day you start dying. Look around. The graveyard is full of talent, full of people who had the gift, the vision, the chance, but they quit. They quit because it was hard. They quit because it was slow. They quit because they let feelings dictate their fate. Don't let that be your story. Don't let your dream die because you weren't willing to push one more day. One more day, that's the secret. When you're tired, when you're broken, when you're on the edge of quitting, just give it one more day. Because sometimes the difference between winning and losing isn't a year, it isn't a month. It's a single day you didn't quit. That day changes everything. That day tilts the balance. That day makes history. And when you finally get there, when you finally hold in your hands the life you once only imagined, you'll realize it wasn't luck. It wasn't talent, it wasn't fate, it was you. It was the nights you didn't sleep. It was the mornings you didn't skip. It was the hours you spent when no one believed, when no one clapped, when no one cared. It was consistency, quiet, unsexy, relentless, and it turned you into a legend. So burn this into your mind, force yourself to be consistent, and everything falls into place. The money, the freedom, the respect, the life you want, but it only bows to one master: consistency. So what are you waiting for? Another sign, another speech, another spark? No, you've heard enough. You know what to do. Get up, start now, not tomorrow, not later, now. And when you wake up tomorrow, do it again and again and again, until the world moves out of your way because you refuse to move out of its. This is your moment. This is your life. Stop negotiating with your future. Stop cheating your destiny. Go all in. Be relentless. Be unstoppable. Be consistent. Because when you are, there is no force on earth that can keep you from the life you were born to live. You've learned the truth. Consistency is the foundation. But if you think the fight ends here, you're wrong. This war never ends. The next step will test everything you've learned. Part 2 isn't just advice. It's the fire that will burn every excuse out of your soul. So don't stop now. Click the link, watch Part 2, and finish what you started. Because greatness doesn't wait, and neither should you.